After we have done the goal analysis of our task or performance and defined the major steps involved in performing it, our next process is to identify the subordinate skills that are necessary in each step. This is an example of the subordinate skills analysis of one step from the textbook. Seeing these in a completed form like this may not give you a good idea of how they are created, so let's go through the process. Here is step 3 in an imaginary task that I'm analyzing. This step is Open Word Processing Application in Start Menu. Well, now the first thing we have to do is decide what skills or what knowledge does a person need in order to be able to open a word processing application in the Start menu. Well, the first thing I would say is that they should be able to open an application in the Start menu, just any application. Another skill I think they need is to identify a word processing application so that they know what it is that they need to open. I imagine we could think of other subordinate skills on this level, but let's stop here at 2 for demonstration purposes. Now we go down and ask the same question about these subordinate skills. And the first one then is open an application in the Start menu. So now we ask what are the skills and knowledge that one would need in order to be able to open the application. Using the same process that I did for the previous level, I decided that these 3 skills are the ones that are needed for that particular skill of opening an application. Open a Start menu, locate an application in the Start menu, and click on an application name. Notice that each of these could be performed by itself without any of the others. And below that level, we could further divide these tasks up into the skills of moving a mouse and clicking a mouse. There would be a lot of others, but in order to keep this diagram from becoming unreadable, I'll just stop at this point. But notice that we would also probably have some verbal information boxes on the same level as these 2 new ones. Now I have to make an initial assumption about which of these skills are skills that my audience already has. That would be considered the entry-level skills. And notice we haven't put a line in here yet, but I'm going to say that for the purposes of this analysis, my audience is some lower grade students who have not yet learned too much about computers. So the only thing that on this that they do know is to move the mouse and to click the mouse. The rest I'm going to assume that they don't know yet. So I'll draw the broken line at this position. Now this is only an initial assumption. We will be going back to this later as we do the development to see if the assumption was indeed accurate. If I were working with a more advanced audience, I might make the assumption that they know the skills that are listed on the next level up. Open a Start menu, locate an application, and click on the application. So in that case, I would move the line up above those, indicating that they know all of the things below that line, or I'm assuming they know that, and that all we are going to need to teach them are the things above that line. Now normally I would go back and do the same process for this track under Identify a Word Processing Application to go through the same process to get down to the entry-level knowledge and skills that are needed for that. However, this particular skill happens to be pretty much of a verbal skill. You could almost say this state the name of a word processing application, so I will leave it at that point. It's not really useful to analyze a verbal skill any lower than that. But what if I decided that they already know how to identify a word processing application? I would then move that box down below the dotted line so that it would be in line with the other skills that they already know how to do. Notice that I haven't put any numbers in the subordinate skills boxes yet. Now's the time to do that because each of those boxes has to have a different number so that they can be identified easily. There are several methods that you can use to number the boxes. With each box having a separate number, we can identify them in the lists that we will be creating later. Note that I have given a number to each of the boxes, including the ones that are below the entry-level line. I do this for two reasons. One is that the entry-level line is variable. It could change during our analysis. So if we were to go back and change this line down to below, and if we had given all of those below that line a letter designation, then we would have to redesignate them as numbers instead of letters. The other reason I do this is because all of the skills, regardless of whether they are above the line or below the line, should be treated the same as we develop objectives and assessments in the next phase of the design process. I hope this discussion has been a help to you in doing your subordinate skills analysis.